Council hearing for the Committee on Governmental Operations, State and Federal Legislation. At this time, we would like to remind everyone to silence all electronic devices. Also, at this point, going forward, no one is approached the dais. No one. We're ready to begin.
Thank you very much, Sergeant. So I am Gail Brewer, Chair of the Committee on Government Operations, State and Federal Legislation, and I'm looking forward to chairing this committee. I must admit, I did it before in 2010 to 2013 when I was in the City Council previously. Thank you for joining us. I'd like to thank my colleagues, particularly Councilmember Morano, who is on Zoom. So today we will be hearing from Deputy Speaker Williams' bill, introductory number 502, establishing a one-time commission to review the salaries of the elected officials in New York City and make recommendations regarding those salaries. Elected official pay is set by local law, but under our city's administrative code, the mayor, any mayor, is required to appoint a commission to review the compensation levels of elected officials every 4 years and make recommendations to the council. Ostensibly, they're supposed to do that in their third year of their term. With the exception of the district attorneys, the last time city elected officials received a raise was in 2016. Mayor de Blasio failed to impanel the required commission in 2020, and Mayor Adams subsequently declined to convene one in 2024. This 10-year gap is the longest the city officials have gone without a raise in the 40 years since the quadrennial commission framework has been in place. Over that time, salaries of New York elected officials have failed to keep pace with inflation and with the salaries of elected officials across the country. Legislators in Los Angeles, I know there are 9 council members in LA. In Chicago, where there are 51, I don't know what Philadelphia number is, but all of them make more than we do in New York. And as we know, all of these cities have much smaller budgets and much smaller workforces. These stagnant wages not only affect elected officials. While some top executives can receive salaries higher than the elected officials they serve, for non-executive roles, an elected official salary serves as a cap on the salaries of those employees. These salary caps can keep the city from offering competitive wages, which can keep us from being able to attract the best and brightest to crucial city jobs, although it's often the best and the brightest, I have to say. Low salaries for elected officials can also negatively influence who is able to run for office, although nobody seems to worry about that. People run, I will say. Being an elected official in New York City is a challenging and demanding 24/7 job. I certainly know that. And elected officials should be able to support themselves and their families on this salary, regardless of their economic status prior to running. If salaries are too low, then elected officials risk being accessible only to wealthy individuals. That's true. I think we should look at the Senate. It's quite full of wealthy individuals, U.S. Senate. The legislation that we are hearing today, Intro 502, requires the mayor to convene a one-time 3-person commission to review the salaries of the mayor, the public advocate, the borough presidents, council members, and the district attorneys. The commission would have 60 days to make their recommendations to the mayor and the council. The mayor would be able to send his approval, disapproval, or modifications, and the council would have discretion to review and accept, reject, or modify the commission's recommendation prior to passing any legislation altering salaries for the city's elected officials. Before I conclude, I would like to thank the following council staff for their work on this hearing. From the Government Ops Committee staff, Jahari Frazier, who's fabulous, Eric Cohen, who's fabulous, and Seema Hamid, who's also fabulous from finance. From my staff, the wonderful Sam Goldsmith, and everyone in the background to make this hearing run smoothly. I don't think any other council members have joined us. As I indicated, we certainly have Councilmember Morano on the Zoom. So now I will ask, I believe, because we don't have anybody here from the administration, so we don't need to ask anybody to be sworn in. So I open the hearing for public testimony. I remind members of the public that this is a government proceeding and that decorum shall be observed. As such, members of the public shall remain silent at all times. The witness table is reserved for people who wish to testify. No video recording, no photography. Members of the public may not present audio or video recordings as testimony, but may submit transcripts to the Sergeant at Arms for inclusion in the record. I think those who are here know you need to fill out an appearance card with the Sergeant at Arms, and we recognize you have 2 minutes to speak on the topic, although we can ask you questions so you could speak longer. Establishing a one-time commission to review the salaries of elected officials and make recommendations regarding these salaries. That's what is the topic today. If you have a written statement or additional written testimony you wish to submit, please provide a copy to the sergeant. You can also send in via email written testimony to testimony@council.nyc.gov within 72 hours of the close of this hearing. Audio and video will not be accepted. And now those who are here and want to be called, we will call the witnesses for this particular panel. And I want to call the wonderful Ben Weinberg from Citizens Union. Thank you. You just broke all the laws. Thank you.
Good morning, Chair Brewer and Council Member Morano on Zoom. My name is Ben Weinberg. I'm the Director of Public Policy at Citizens Union. First, I want to congratulate Council Member Brewer on her appointment as chair for this important committee. This week on contracts, Councilmember Ressler said I was the top one appearance at the GovOps committee last term. So I'm sorry to say you'll see more of me in the next few years.
I had to do it, but you know, Mr. Wrestler says a lot of funny things.
He does. That's right. We testified before you a month ago to ask you to pause legislation providing for an immediate increase in elected official compensation. In that hearing, we presented several alternative legislative actions that would allow for salary adjustments to proceed through the traditional commission-based review process, given that, as you mentioned, the previous mayor refused to appoint one. One of those options was to pass a new law requiring Mayor Zoran Mamdani, to convene a one-time compensation commission in 2026. So we're here to thank Councilmember Williams, Chair Brewer, and Speaker Menin for heeding our request and bringing forward this bill. We were pleased to see last week's joint announcement from the mayor and the speaker announcing that the commission will indeed be created. We support this proposed legislation. It would establish a commission within 15 days of the law's effective date. The commission's composition, powers, and criteria for salary evaluation basically mirror those in the current law and the admin code. So that means it would function essentially just like a regular quadrennial compensation commission, advisory commission. We believe this is a wise approach that maintains the integrity of the salary setting process, increases public confidence, and preserves a half-century of precedent. The bill does diverge from current law, the law that regulates the compensation commission, in three minor aspects, if you don't mind me running through them. First of all, the timeline for completion. So this bill would provide the commission with 60 days to complete its work rather than the 120 days that are currently set in law. We believe this is a reasonable time frame. In fact, all commissions had 60 days. After the last commission in 2015 convened, it recommended that the timeline be extended for 120 days, and that's what that council has done. It extended the timeline, and that extended timeline is still in effect for future advisory commissions. This proposed bill also proposes that the final report of the commission will be sent to both the council and the mayor rather than just the mayor. That obviously makes sense and actually should apply to all commissions. Lastly, it requires the commission to recommend retroactive salary adjustment, meaning that it'll start from January 1st. As a general principle, we believe salary adjustment should be prospective, and we typically caution against retroactive pay increases. But given these unusual circumstances, the fact that a decade has passed since the last adjustment and that that retroactivity will only cover a few months. We support this as an appropriate one-time solution. We should note other criteria could be set at the December hearing. Some council member, I believe including you, Chair, proposed that council member salary evaluation will be somehow linked to their council's staff salaries. So that's another way to go. But importantly, this bill preserves the regular 4-year salary review cycle. And we think this is critical because it allows the city to return to a predictable process and avoid the disruptions we've seen in the past. An advisory commission has to be established in 2028, in our opinion. January 2028 is really the next time an advisory commission should, under the law, be established. And we want to make sure that tradition continues, even if that commission will be established and say, you know, even if a commission is established and says there's no reason for a salary increase. However, and this is an important point we want to make, retaining the existing framework also preserves the same loophole that that got us so far, right? Allowed the past 3 mayors to avoid appointing a commission at a time. There's really no guarantee that a future mayor or even Mayor Mamdani in 2028 will not do the same, just ignore the law. And we know that lawsuits on these issues are politically tricky. So we therefore strongly urge the council to either amend this bill or introduce another bill that will be passed alongside it to authorize another citywide elected official, for example, the controller, to appoint an advisory commission if the mayor fails to do so by the January 15 of the required year under the law. We think if you advancing that legislation now, when the public still remembers Mayor Adams' failure to comply with the law, this issue is still under active consideration. You have the support of groups like us. That's more feasible and more politically reasonable than waiting for the next crisis. And that will save both elected officials and us and advocates significant time in the future. Before concluding, I just want to reiterate our long-standing position that elected officials should be well compensated. Competitive salaries attract strong candidates, enable individuals who are not independently wealthy to pursue public service, reduce incentives for corruption, and reflect the importance of serving the public. And we have consistently supported fair pay for elected officials while also insisting on integrity, accountability, and transparency in the process. We thank you for advancing this bill, and we look forward to seeing the Compensation Commission begin its work. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Councilmember Felice is also on Zoom. Susan Lerner, do you want to join us up here, and then we can ask questions of both of you, if that's okay with you?
Of course.
Okay. Go ahead with your testimony.
Thank you, and I apologize for being delayed. We at Common Cause New York, as Citizens Union and our colleagues at reInvent, have been strong advocates for fair pay for elected officials. And that's why we were so active in 2016 to be sure that the last pay raise was adequate and that it was accompanied by appropriate restrictions on outside income. And also why we were so active in pushing for the amendment of the quadrennial advisory committee law to ensure that we did not have the same problem that we had in 2016. Our concern with this bill is that it does not really address the real problem, which is that mayors are just blowing past the existing law requiring a quadrennial advisory commission. And without closing that loophole, having these one-up bills when people have lost patience with the lack of a regular review undercuts the entire system. I was pleased to see the mayor and the council speaker hold a press conference saying that they would appoint a commission. I hope they will do so right away and obviate the need for this kind of one-off resolution of a repetitive problem. The idea that we've had, in 2006, Mayor Bloomberg did this, there was a one-off commission, does not solve the problem. We don't want to be here in 10 years having exactly the same conversation. So, one, I believe we should give the mayor and the speaker an opportunity to make good on their promise to the public. Passing new laws when old laws that do basically the same thing are being ignored, I believe sets a really bad precedent. So we join in with CU on the request that this lack of enforcement of the existing law be addressed. And I do want to say that we do not agree with Reinvent to make the commission more complicated. This should be a regular quadrennial review. It should be handled in an expeditious manner by auditors, by people who have the experience. That's worked very well in the past, and I don't see the need for making this into a 10 or 12 person commission with a lot of back and forth. This should be a regular salary review that government officials can rely on the same way that we in the nonprofit and the private industry world expect regular salary reviews.
Well, thank you both. I think what you're saying, I know you had a suggestion that could be sort of, if you're not going to do it, Mr. Mayor, we're going to call on the controller to do it. And that is certainly would be a push. I think that's one suggestion. So we need to come up with a stick as opposed to a carrot, because the carrot didn't work.
Yeah.
So we need a stick that would say, this is what's going to happen if you don't do it. I mean, they are breaking the law. It is in the administrative code.
Yeah.
So, you know, if it was a nonprofit and the AG was on you, then you would actually be in a lot of trouble and probably fined. Right. But that's not something that happens in government. So I think that's sort of the message of today, is come up with something so that this doesn't happen again. And I do like the small stature of it in terms of those who are participating. I don't know who the 3 people selected. They don't have to be members of the administration. They can be outsiders, as my understanding. I asked that question earlier. So certainly auditors, people who have professional financial knowledge, historical, et cetera, would be the ones that I would suggest. Yeah. And I think we're both saying the same thing. I think the question is, I think in this case, because there's such pressure, it will happen. This, what you call one-off. But then the question is, in 3 years, which is basically when it's supposed to take place, would that be something that we need to think harder about making sure it happens? There's also, you mentioned also the prospective versus going back to January. And I have to say, I am agnostic on that, but my colleagues are not. So I just want to let you know that will come up, I'm sure, as a topic. I want to let you know that is not something that they have no opinion on. They have a very strong opinion.
But we do have an opinion, in which we stated in the December hearing where my colleague Samantha Sanchez testified, and that is, we are on record, retrospective raises are not acceptable anywhere in government. That's why the Constitution requires Congress to, when they raise congressional salaries, it has to be prospective. It is a terrible look to the public. I understand the frustration. We share the frustration that the regular review process has not taken place as it should, but granting retrospective raises to yourself is just a bad look and raises real questions in the minds of the public.
Wait, go ahead.
I'll also add on this. The commission timeline was moved in 2015, after the 2015 commission, from the 2nd year to the 3rd year of a term. And the idea there was to encourage the next council, the next time a commission will be convened, to implement the salary increases prospectively for the next term after the next election. And 2018, if indeed that happens, if hopefully a commission is established, that is, I think, is the best time to try out that pilot, because it will be only 2 years after this raise that's coming. There will be an election 1 year after. So I think that's maybe a sensible pilot, I would say, for that prospective increases.
Also, you mentioned, and I think what would happen is, as this commission is formed, there will be hearings. I mean, I assume there will be a hearing, yes. And that is something that you could bring up. As you indicated, I think it's just in this one-off, there'll be council input also. So
we have no problem with the stick being that the threat, if you do not comply with the law and set up the commission as required, that the council could set up its own commission. I want the strongest possible goad so that, as I said, we're not back here
Right.
having the same conversation, trying to fix the law and seeing mayors blow by it without any
I
consequences.
think that should be absolutely part of the discussion. Absolutely. What is to stick? Obviously, the one in the past did not work.
Yeah.
So I think that's extremely important. I don't have any other questions. I think that this is going to happen, this one-off. And I think if you have suggestions about people who should be appointed, it is the mayor who makes the appointments, not the council. And then it's interesting that you mentioned for other such commissions, it would be good to have the council have some input. So I listened carefully to what you said about that. Nothing to do with this one specifically, but something to look at.
Yeah.
So I thank you both. Any other things, anything else you want to add?
I'll just say, the trick with raises across the board is that they're politically delicate for all sides. So that's why these mechanisms are invented. It's not only for kind of our interest or the public interest, it's also for elected officials' interest, because the public often, unfortunately, doesn't appreciate the need for an increase. So that's why I think it is important to find to avoid the need for litigation to force a mayor, which obviously will not happen, because I don't see a future council suing a mayor to get its own raises. It's politically.
Although the new council rules would allow the council's council to do that.
Perhaps, yeah.
Well, thank you both very much, and we will keep in
Thank you.
touch. And thank you for being the folks who have been pushing for this. Really appreciate that. Thank you.
Thank you, council member.
So now we're going to hear from Mr. Johnson on Zoom.
Yeah, hello. 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 My name is Christopher Leon Johnson. I'm calling on the city council to condemn Grace Rua from the citizens budget, because she's the one that pushed this thing in. This is a disastrous concept, man. I don't know why that she's trying to stop you guys from getting a paycheck. You guys have families. You guys have kids to feed. I know some of you members have like 5, 6, 7 kids like Yusuf Salam. Like, y'all need that money. This is ridiculous that you have to do a commission like this. I think the city council should be on the record and admonish Grace Rua for suggesting this crap. This is stupid. This mayor Madani is going to appoint his cronies to be a part of this commission to find a way to make sure that you guys don't get a raise. And I'll say this right now, that the city council need to come together and tell Madani that if you have a problem with you guys get a raise, he needs to resign as a mayor. This is not right for you guys to be suffering like this. LA get $205,000 a year. Other states get like 250, 205, 175, 180. Why you guys suffering at 148, 148,500? That's low in New York City. That's low. That's no money in New York City. And I'm gonna call the city council to make it aware that if the mayor want to be a dickwad, an asshole, and make sure this thing keep on happening like this, you should remove the proportion where you guys are allowed to get increased outside income. You guys be able to get outside income. You know, the way, I'm gonna say it right now, the way you can start getting more people to run for office is you eliminate the outside income. If, let's say, if I make $25,000 a year, well, I'm gonna leave my $25,000 a year job to go for $140,000 in the public sector, where I'm screwing out for every dollar I make after. It's ridiculous. So I support the city council with their anger and upsetness when it comes to this commission. I understand it's got to go through. I don't support this commission, but it's optics. And Julie Mayer should say that if Madani has a problem, you guys get a raise, he needs to resign. He needs to drop out. So this is sad. I mean, this is really ridiculous what's going to happen. And I know he's going to put Grace Rua.
Thank you. Thank you very much for your testimony. Thank you so much. Thank you very much. We've now heard from everyone who has signed up to testify. If we inadvertently missed anyone who would like to testify in person, please visit the sergeant's table and fill out a slip. If we missed anyone who would like to testify virtually, please use the raised hand function in Zoom, and we will call on you in order of hands raised. No hands. So, seeing no one, I would like to note again that written testimony, which will be reviewed in full by committee staff, may be submitted to the record up to 72 hours after the close of this hearing by emailing it to testimony@council.nyc.gov. And now I'd like to close out this hearing, thanking everybody who helped make it possible. And I'm sure my colleagues will be very happy